Happy Sunday, March 23rd. Welcome to Wasatch Weekends. I'm your host, Kimberly Perot, and on today's show, we are a week away from Easter. And you know what that means? We are showing you how to dye Easter eggs with a fun twist to it. Plus, Bill Humbert with his latest and greatest advice on talent acquisition, recruiting, and the job search. So all of that is happening. Let's take a look at the weather before we get started. Bill Humbert, always a jovial person to chat with when it comes to the job search. It's quite a stressful situation. So Bill is telling us some more tips and tricks on how to relax and really be efficient in what you do. Now, our next guest is no stranger to our show here, but is also quite the expert when it comes to the job search from a candidate perspective, from a company consulting perspective. And this first conversation is going to be all about the company side of things. So Bill, how are you this morning?
I am well, Kimberly, and yourself?
I'm excellent. It's always great to chat with you. So I'm very excited about this conversation because we're often talking about, deleting recruiting from HR and the sales piece of it. And then we're also talking about the candidate strategy and how to properly look for a job. But this conversation is so interesting because we're talking about how do recruiters set proper recruiting goals to make sure that they are basically sticking up to the standards for their internal business partners.
Sounds good. So when you think about talent attraction, what you're trying to do is you're trying to attract the best candidates to your company. And too often, human resources does not understand that they are in a sales process. And they will then measure the wrong activities. For instance, is receiving 400 resumes for a position better than receiving 3 that are on target? The answer is no. And the reason that they're receiving those 400 responses is probably because the job description's poorly written and people really think, well, maybe I can do that job. I'm not sure exactly what it is. So that's the reason why we're talking about proper goal setting for the recruiters.
It's so true. Pinpointed recruiting is often the better result and a better use of your time. So you have an acronym that I've noticed about recruiting and setting recruiting goals. So tell me all about it.
It's funny, Kimberly. I set my goals to hitchhike all the way from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles in 5 days in 1969 using this acronym. So I've had it for a long time, and the acronym is SCAMPS, S-C-A-M-P-S. And so how do recruiters set proper goals for recruiting? Just follow the acronym. S is set a specific goal with a strategy to achieve that goal. For instance, set a goal to talk to 10 different candidates per day for a specific position. And you know what? Maybe those candidates don't even know that they're a candidate yet. You have to recruit them. C is the goal needs to be challenging. And here's the problem with your brain. If it's not a challenging goal, your brain goes, That's boring. I'm not interested. So it's got to be a challenging goal. The A is it has to be attainable. Like I said, your brain's smart. If it's not attainable, it's going to go, I'm not wasting my time doing that. So it has to be attainable and it needs to be measurable. So that's the reason why I gave the example of calling 10 candidates for one specific position per day being your goal. Is it challenging? Yes, because you're not going to make 10 phone calls and get 10 people. So you'll have to keep going and making those calls until you get the right person. And then measure the results too, because maybe you may have to change your pitch that you're making to those candidates, and you can just make those adjustments on the run. It needs to be public. And the reason it needs to be public is because the public will help you and it will keep you on target and accountable. The other thing is you make these calls to people within your network. They may not be in the same industry, they may not be in the same field, but possibly their spouse is, possibly one of their best friends or a family member is. You never know where you're going to get those results from your networking. And that's making it public. And then finally, set a specific end date. So for me, the two S's are the bungee cord that ties scamps together. And once you have that specific end date, now you can measure your activity versus the goal that you set.
I love that. So strategy and the result, and you kind of fill in the gaps in between, and that's what the beauty of LinkedIn, and you can see people commenting or somebody that's not in their network. So lots of good strategy there as well. So let's talk about hiring manager goals. So what are they, and specifically how does that go hand in hand with the recruiter?
Well, Kimberly, you have an advantage that few people who interview me have, and that is you are a recruiter also. And so this will resonate with you. Too often, managers put off responding to resumes. And the best candidates have short shelf lives. So it's important that within 24 hours, they get back to you about a person's candidacy based on the resume they saw. And probably, in my case, I do a phone screen of every candidate I introduce to a manager. And so the manager not only has the resume in front of them, but they have my phone screen. So they've got a lot of information about that person. And so it's important for them to get back to me within 24 hours to let me know, am I interested or not? And if not, why not?
That's exactly right. I think for me, and now that we're talking about what else I've done in my professional work history, I tend to respond to the hiring managers that are the most responsive, and that's where my focus is going to go because they're motivated and they're engaged and they're interested. So that kind of comes down to company goals. Let's talk about the company goals and what are their primary goals with getting new candidates and new employees onto their payroll.
The company goals are both simple in description and difficult to maybe do. I've been recruiting for over 40 years, and the majority of managers that I have recruited for don't know how to effectively interview. And if you don't know how to effectively interview, you're going to hire the wrong person. And what I hear so many times, and I've heard it enough times, I even have a saying that I respond. And that is, well, this candidate feels good in my gut. And my response is, guts are really good for storing and processing food. Not so good for selecting the right candidate.
Not good for feelings.
Right. And so it's important for the company to spend some time and have those managers taught how to properly and effectively interview, and then do that several times, kind of take a Dale Carnegie approach. Do it several times through a year. Just review and see how they're doing versus what they were doing before. And then the other goal for the company is to track consistently the manager's hires. And that'll give you a sense of how well they're interviewing, number one. But, find out, look at the candidates who were hired and how did they respond in the work world? Did they move the position up to another level? Did they just keep it at the same level, or worse, did they fail?
It's very, very important. And, Bill, we appreciate your insight, especially because you are a leading attraction consultant in all across the board in the U.S. You've worked nationally, and so very impressive work. This is great conversation because usually we have the conversation from the job search perspective. So, we've got hiring managers that are watching and listening, so this is a great way for them to reevaluate their business. We appreciate your insight and all that you do.
And there's one more thing that's really important.
Sure.
Remember, the best candidates are attracted to companies with the best employees. That means tracking how the manager's hires are doing is very important.
That's 100% correct. People stay with managers and they stay with people, not necessarily because of who the company is. So that couldn't be more spot on, Bill. We appreciate your insight there.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, stay tuned. We'll be back with more. And Bill Humbert, always a pleasure to speak with you.
It's been great, Kimberly. Thank you.
We'll be right back after this quick break. Dyeing Easter eggs is a time-old tradition and a fun thing for everyone in the family, whether you're doing it with your family or your friends. Kevin and I show you a fun twist on how to do that. We're here.
We're here. We're back in the kitchen.
We are back in the kitchen, but we're actually not cooking anything. We are dyeing Easter eggs. I'm a big fan of trying things that I see on the internet, so I don't know how successful it will be, but we're going to make it happen. So I saw this really fun way of doing like a tie-dye Easter egg with shaving cream and food coloring. So we're going to give it a shot. What do you think? You think it's going to work?
I know I've got extra shaving cream around my house.
Well, it's too bad you didn't bring any, but we've got some here. So Kevin, if you want to hand me the shaving cream, what we're going to do is just spread it on the bottom of this pan.
Okay.
As much as you want to, and we'll just spread it around. And then we've got the food color. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how messy this is about to get. And this is the fun part. Supposedly,
nice job.
This is an easier way of doing things. And then we just spread it around the pan, just like that. So we got just regular cheap shaving
just
cream.
like you've got cake batter, and you're just going to spread it around.
It's true.
Same technique.
Maybe we'll put a little bit more in there.
Just
Why
a little
not?
bit more.
Why not? But Kevin, did you dye Easter eggs often?
Oh, always. As a kid, we did. We got the crayons out. We had, I forget the brand of it, but you have the little cardboard thing with the wire dipper.
The wire
dipper.
Never
worked, and it always ended up on the floor. But
or
we
your
had
fingers,
fun.
It
yeah,
is.
You had colored fingers. You go to school and.
Right. Okay, cool. So this is really easy. You can do this apparently with friends, like with kids, little kids. But I also like trying things and kind of keeping traditions alive. So we spread the shaving cream along here, and then we've got our food coloring. So I'm going to pick 2 colors, and you pick 2 colors. And we also have a few that we're just marinating in salad
I'll pick
colors
2 colors.
as well. Okay.
And then I'll pick 2 colors.
All right. So you should pick 2 colors, and then I'll pick 2 colors.
Okay.
And we're just going to just kind of sprinkle them where we feel like we want to. And you can pick wherever you want to put yours. And we can either do 2 colors, or we can do all colors. I don't care. Whatever you want.
Okay.
And just do a few there.
So we just put a little drop.
Just a little drop. I'm going to give you a straw.
Oh.
And we're going to spread them around. I'm going to do 2 colors on my side. And we're just and this is just regular food coloring. You really don't have to get fancy with it. This is a gel food coloring, so it's going to be hopefully a little bit more vibrant. And then we're going to take our straw, and you're just going to start mixing it around a little bit, seeing what happens. You can even use a spoon if you want to, if it's not spreading as fast. Sometimes I think if I had to guess, the liquid food coloring might do a little bit better as far as spreading it around.
Instead of the gel?
Instead of the gel. So we'll put a little bit more gel in.
Put some gel in.
We're just doing that. And then the fun part is we hard-boiled our eggs ahead of time.
We did.
And then we soaked it in vinegar for about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that should give it a way for the color of the food coloring to really like solidify and stick to the shell.
Yeah. So the eggshell is a semi-porous thing.
It is.
Is it? I'm just.
We're guessing. We're going to go ahead and guess. You know, we're not scientists. We're not scientists.
I'm very, very confident about that statement I just made.
You should be, because you are kind of a science-based guy.
Yeah.
All right. And then we're doing this. We're just spreading it around. And then we're going to just put an egg in here. And you can kind of just mix it around and see what happens. So you put an egg on your side and see if it turns out tie-dye. You know, this is what we see on the internet. So sometimes it's successful and sometimes
it's not. We're kind of like the myth busters here.
We are.
We're going to bust this myth one way or another.
We are. And you just kind of push it around, and you can like spread it around, and you can coat it in the shaving cream. And you want to let it sit for a few minutes because it'll definitely dye it and do a little bit better. Yeah, look at that.
Look at that. I think my egg is going to be absolutely spectacular.
I think it might be too. And then once you're done with it, from what I've seen, you just leave it coated on there, and then you wipe it off, and it should be good. You let it sit for at least 10 minutes so the color can solidify.
So I've had some eggs here that have been here for about 10 minutes. We're going to wipe this off, see what happens.
See what happens. It looks great. He's laughing at me.
No, it's actually...
It works.
Yeah, it works.
And it's definitely a little bit messier, but at least you're not spilling like vinegar and food dye all over your clothes. I'm wearing our TV8 aprons because I wore a
You're official.
I am official, but I also wore a white shirt on the day that we're dyeing Easter eggs, so didn't really think that one through here. But you know what? It's okay.
Our TV8 wardrobe did not put you in the right direction on that one.
It's true.
Correct?
It's true. But here we go.
So look at that.
It looks great. So I think the longer you let it sit, the better it is. We also heard you can use balsamic vinegar, and it'll actually make the colors a little bit more vibrant. So we have one egg soaking in balsamic.
Right here.
And then we're going to put it into the colors or into the shaving cream and see what happens. So hopefully it'll be a little bit brighter. But
yeah, we'll stick that maybe in the green, and we'll see how we compare with the two green eggs.
Exactly. And you can see that these are starting to look tie-dye. But Kevin, you were telling me about another way that you can really make this look tie-dye. And how do you do that? You crack the shell a little bit?
So if you crack the shell a little bit and then put it in the coloring, a lot of times, then when you peel the egg, the inside is actually got that spider web look.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
So you've got an egg there, and let's try that.
All right, how do I do this?
So you just crack it, like keep cracking it, like.
Just like.
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, but you got to crack it.
Oh, whoop, wrong egg. This one is not cooked.
So we like to do practical jokes here at TV8. So I actually took an egg that we hadn't boiled yet. Here, Kim, use this egg.
Kevin is always playing jokes on me. And I think that's my favorite one by far. We always crack jokes behind the scenes.
Literally crack jokes.
No pun intended there. But you know what? I'm having a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what these eggs look like when we're done letting them marinate in the shaving cream and the food coloring and cleaning up.
And we're going to scramble an egg here in a few minutes. So
we'll show you how to scramble an egg. Very basic. It's going to be easy. But that's a fun one. It's a great way to hang out with your friends and family. And you know, it's not as messy. It doesn't smell as bad if you're using a lot of vinegar.
Yeah, and this one's kind of dried off. You've got the color.
Yeah, looks great.
And then our tie-dyes are in there, looking good.
Yeah, looking great.
So we'll have to check back in on them.
We'll check them out and see what happens at the end of the show.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Erin Larson-Meyer. I'm a visual artist as well as a conceptual artist, specializing in oil paint. The representations in my artwork are primarily based on the notion of growth mindset. That there is power in our thoughts, that we have limitless potential, that there is merit to our deeds, and there is manifestation through our actions and through thinking positively about what we want in life. In my past, I've battled with a lot of negative self-talk, very self-destructive habits, and also sensitive to what other people think about me. And it's taken a long time to retrain how I see the world and how I think about myself. And I realized the importance of self-worth And everything that I do in my artwork kind of starts in that place where we are divine creations. And so the symbols that are in my artwork all come from nature. Nature is my biggest teacher, I think. The way that the seasons change, blossom and grow, the way that the caterpillar metamorphoses into a butterfly, the way that diamonds are forged out of coal, like there's a language and there's this divine coding in nature, and I want to be able to understand that more and relate it to our own human design, and then be able to implement that language and that sort of divine design coding into my artwork. I want to be able to strive to create what I think are beautiful things, so that when people look at my artwork, it fulfills a narrative with them, that they can somehow relate to that image. It either will tell their story, or it will at least resonate philosophically or spiritually with them. And so this is really what that work is about, is to inspire that thought that, you know, it's only our negative thought or the gravitational pull of society or circumstances that keep us like down. We have the power to rise collectively as a community, but also just as an individual. I feel like all of our adversities, all of our trials and tragedies is just really a way to forge us into becoming something so much more beautiful and refined, like a diamond. On the back of all of my artwork, I sign my artist mantra, and that is breathe, believe, bloom, become. So that's what I want people to take away. That's my message to you, and I hope that you feel that.
We've had a nice balance of educational and fun here on this morning's edition of Wasatch Weekends. I'm Kimberly Perot, and I will see you tomorrow.